Today I have to cancel Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Congresswoman Mace has been on a crusade as of late over the trans issue. For the last few months, Mace has been speaking out in very forceful language against the scourge of gender ideology. Along with authoring a bill to keep men out of women's bathrooms on Capitol Hill, Mace has also been tweeting things like, quote, "Your mental illness will not become my new normal." And she stood in front of whatever cameras she can find saying things like this. Watch.
Effort in response to Congresswoman McBride's coming to Congress?
Yes, and absolutely, and then some. I'm not going to stand for a man, if someone with a penis is in the women's locker room, that's not okay. And I'm a victim of abuse myself. I'm a rape survivor. I have PTSD from the abuse I've suffered at the hands of a man. And I know how vulnerable women and girls are in private spaces. So I'm absolutely 100% going to stand in the way of any man who wants to be in a women's restroom, in our locker rooms, in our changing rooms.
So very clear and forceful and, of course, totally correct language. In fact, Nancy is so heated about this topic that she recently challenged another Congresswoman, Jasmine Crockett, to, quote, step outside in the middle of a congressional hearing. So this is a woman who will not take any guff from the trans activists and their proponents, and she has, in recent months, made that her brand. She has positioned herself as a leader in the fight against gender ideology. She likes to tweet with the hashtag hold the line, a slogan that she's adopted because she is, we're supposed to believe, holding the line against the trans madness. But you may notice that even as I've talked about this, I've had to qualify all of these statements by saying as of late and in the last few months, because oddly enough, less than 2 years ago, the woman who is now holding the line and leading the charge, she claims, against trans ideology was sitting down for interviews with corporate media outlets and saying stuff like this.
So I touch a lot of sensitive subjects because I want to show that as conservatives, we can be compassionate, we can show love.
How does that inform your position on transgender rights?
Well, I'm pro transgender rights, I'm pro LGBTQ. Just don't go to the extreme with our kids. Our kids
define extremism there for me.
Sex change surgery, the hormone blockers that sterilize our children. We shouldn't be doing that when a child is prepubescent or going through puberty. Let that child go through the natural process of life and let them make that permanent decision when they're older. Now, if they want to take on a different pronoun or a different gender identity or grow their hair out or wear a dress or wear pants or do those things as a minor, those are all things that I think most people would support. Be who you want to be, but don't make those permanent changes when it's a child.
Okay, so Nancy was bold enough, at least, to oppose the medical mutilation of minors in 2023, but she did support trans rights and the social transition of children. In fact, she not only supported the idea that a child might have a different gender identity, quote unquote, she said that most people would support it. To her, it was obvious, a given, right? She's supporting dressing a boy up like a girl and saying that he's a girl and giving him girl pronouns. That's what she supported in 2023. I must stress again, this was in 2023. Now, to put that into perspective, that was a full year after What Is a Woman came out. Okay, we were already well into the period when it was pretty safe to fundamentally oppose gender ideology. And yet, Nancy Mace didn't oppose it at the time. Does she now? I don't know. In 2023, she supported trans rights in those words. So tell me, Nancy, what do you think trans rights are? What rights specifically fall under that umbrella? Well, I'll tell you. A man using the women's restroom. That is specifically and explicitly what is meant when trans activists talk about trans rights. That is the trans right they're demanding. The right to be fully recognized as the gender they claim to be. That's what trans rights are. So if you support trans rights, you support that. You support men in the women's room. There's no such thing as, I support trans rights, but not men in the women's room. That doesn't make any sense. Okay? This is the same thing. Which means as recently as 2023, you supported men in the women's room. Now, this has not stopped Mace from loudly, on a daily basis at this point, claiming with a shameless straight face that she has led the charge in the fight against trans ideology. Just yesterday, she posted this claim on X again, and she's saying this, it's constant, okay? Constant, she's saying this. And so she's probably about to announce a campaign for South Carolina governor, and this post was meant to favorably compare herself against Alan Wilson, who's the AG of South Carolina, who's also probably going to run, apparently. And she posted this. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. We led the fight to protect women. Alan Wilson holds a press conference on it. We visit the South Carolina National Guard. Alan Wilson visits the South Carolina National Guard. We speak at Greenwood County GOP. Alan Wilson speaks at Greenwood County GOP. Well, thank you, Alan Wilson. We're flattered. So, not only is she claiming to be in the lead, but she's actually accusing someone else of copying her. And then there's a picture of herself with the caption, "How it started." Okay? So, I must ask, Nancy, how what started? What is it that you think you started? In what way did you lead the fight to protect women? No, the people who led the fight were in it for years while you were still telling CBS about how deeply you care about trans rights. Okay, while you were telling CBS that it's okay to dress a little boy like a girl and say that he's a girl and give him girl pronouns, while you were doing that, the people who were actually leading the fight were leading it. You came in after, okay? But this is the kind of ego that we're dealing with. This is someone who posted a tribute to the people who started the fight to protect women's sports, and it's literally just 3 pictures of her. I mean, come on. The woman who only got bold and aggressive on the issue well after the people who had actually led the fight had made it safe for her to do so. Did you know that 80% of resolutions fail by February? Well, this year can be different because I've discovered something that transformed my approach to health. It's called Lumen, the world's first handheld metabolic coach. Now, here's what makes a Lumen special. It measures your metabolism through your breath, showing you whether you're burning fats or carbs. Every morning, I take a quick breath into my Lumen, and it gives me personalized nutrition recommendations for the day. I can even check before and after workouts to optimize my fitness routine and make sure I'm staying on track for my 2025 goals. Your metabolism, it's like your body's engine. It's central to everything from energy levels to sleep quality. What I love about Lumen is how it adapts to your body's needs because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does. Optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, etc. And who doesn't want that? Well, the best part, Lumen provides clear insights and guidance to help you make informed decisions about your health. It's not about quick fixes, it's about understanding your body and making sustainable changes. Take the next step to improve your health. Go to lumen.me/Walsh to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/Walsh for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. The fact that Nancy Mace explicitly supported trans rights recently and is now pretending to be the leader of the very fight she undermined is annoying, but it's also pretty standard political grandstanding. I also don't like to get into fights about who deserves credit for things. I'm used to people, taking credit for stuff constantly, especially politicians. They do this all the time. Politicians are always out, I led the fight, or this, and it's like, yeah, you came into this fight. No, you waited until it was super safe, and then you rode a wave. You didn't lead a fight. But it's if we get into that game, then we'd be here all day, and there's no point. Which is why I've been firmly biting my tongue for weeks now, while Nancy Mace plays the role of anti-gender ideology crusader. In fact, I've even given her credit on this show for going to bat on this issue recently. Because even if her incredibly self-congratulatory tone is grating and thoroughly undeserved, she is still right about the bathroom issue. She's right about it now anyway. And so I tried to focus on that. But then she posted this. Quote, I didn't fight like hell to become the first woman to graduate from the Citadel just for some man in a miniskirt to take away that achievement. Protecting women's accomplishments isn't a political talking point for me. It's personal. Now, this is also something that she says a lot. She constantly brags about being the first woman to graduate from the Citadel Military College. In fact, she bragged about it twice yesterday alone. She also tweeted, quote, when I was first elected, I was told if I didn't fall in line, if I didn't play the Washington political insider game, then I wouldn't fit in. Boy, were they right. When you were the first woman to sit in the Citadel's barber chair to get all your hair chopped off, you don't get your feelings hurt if you don't get invited to fancy cocktail parties in Washington, D.C. I mean, Nancy, you were literally just at the fanciest D.C. cocktail party of the year last Monday night for the inauguration. I was there too. I'm not judging you for it, but you were just there and you posted a bunch of pictures with yourself and celebrities. So, you did, you do get invited to the cocktail parties. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is Nancy Mace's feminist girl boss routine. And that is what is pushing me over the edge and forcing me to do this segment, which I don't really want to do, but I have to. If she would just stick to taking credit for things she didn't do, we wouldn't have to talk about it. I can deal with that, but I can't deal with this. And I'll tell you the reason. You know, Nancy, you say that you fought like hell to be the first female graduate of the Citadel. Well, first of all, your dad was the commandant when you were there, so I imagine, you had some help in that fight. But second, you say that you care so much about protecting female-only spaces. Well, great. The Citadel was a male-only space until it was forced by law to admit females, to admit you, in the name of diversity and inclusion. You were quite literally the beneficiary of a DEI program. You were a DEI graduate. That's what DEI is. Now, they didn't call it that back then, but it's the same thing. Forcing an institution to change their standards in order to admit a more diverse group of people, all in the name of being progressive and inclusive, is DEI. And it's also the exact same argument that trans-identifying males use to invade female spaces. So we rightly lament the death of female-only spaces, but the truth that you are so helpfully bringing to light is that male-only spaces died a long time ago. Thanks to people like you, every uniquely masculine and exclusively male space, including those spaces that had very good reason to be uniquely masculine and exclusively male, like the military and related institutions, has been feminized. The feminism that you champion set the stage for trans ideology. It essentially is trans ideology. The feminists were the first ones to deny the fundamental and inherent differences between the sexes and to deny the value of sex segregation in many aspects of society. Who were the first people to come along and say that biological sex is basically irrelevant? It doesn't actually matter. People are the same. There's no meaningful difference between men and women. Who were the first ones to say that? Okay? A pop quiz. Who was it? It was the feminists. It was the feminists who came along, saw that the military was exclusively male, and said, there's no reason why women shouldn't be included too. But there was a reason, Nancy. The reason was biology, which is the same reality that trans activists deny, and for the same reason. So that they can feel included. Just like you wanted to feel included. Now, it's not exactly the same thing. The trans male claims to be a woman so that he can be included in women's spaces. The trans male claims that his inclusion actually does not destroy its status as a women's space because he says, falsely, that he is a woman. The feminist, on the other hand, demands to be included in men's spaces, but does not claim to be a man. Instead, she simply says that men's spaces shouldn't exist. So these are different arguments, but they have the same ultimate effect. They are both very bad. They both are based in the same fundamental lie about the human condition and the human species, and they both derive from the same basic level denial of the inherent and immutable and fundamentally significant differences between the sexes. And this is why I can't just sit silently and listen to a prominent voice in the Republican Party try to reframe the fight against gender ideology in feminist terms. I can tolerate the showboating and you taking credit when you should be giving it, but I can't tolerate that because you are hurting the cause that some of us actually have been fighting for and fighting for a long time, a lot longer than you, Nancy. And that is why Nancy Mace is today, I'm afraid to say, canceled. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.